सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Offering our collective pranams at the feet of our beloved Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai, respected dignitaries, teachers, and all my dear sisters, a very good afternoon. We welcome you all to this week's session of the Words of Wisdom class. During this session, we have the privilege of listening to several eminent speakers who generously share their insights and wisdom. The main goal of this session is to offer a meaningful and enriching experience for our student community, creating a unique opportunity for intellectual growth and enlightenment. It is with sincere pleasure that we welcome our guest speaker for this afternoon, V. Ravichandar sir. A luminary with a mechanical engineering degree from BITS Pilani and an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, he brings over 3 decades of invaluable industry experience through his firm Feedback Consulting. He is also the former Honorary Director of Bangalore International Centre and the Honorary Consul for the Republic of Slovenia in Bangalore. Sri Ravichandar sir is more than a seasoned professional. He is a dynamic force in shaping urban landscapes. His proactive involvement in urban issues since 2000, including his role in the expert committee on BBMP Restructuring for Bengaluru, showcases his commitment to fostering sustainable urban development. A member of the Brand Bengaluru Government, core team organizer of the Bangalore Literature Festival, and currently the Chief Bangalore Hubba, a festival of festivals. Mr. Ravichandar is a key figure in shaping our city culture and intellectual landscape. He has significantly influenced urban development in Bangalore, advocating his initiatives like Tender Sure and contributing to the Bangalore Agenda Task Force. Beyond his professional endeavors, Sri Ravichandar actively supports social and cultural causes, contributing to organizations like Chennai International Centre, Check for India, Vidya Poshak, Samhita Academy, Akshara Foundation, and Takshashila Institution. As the co-chair of the Karnataka Tourism Vision Group, he has also played a crucial role in shaping the state's tourism landscape. Respected sir, we would like to kindly share that Sri Madhusudan Sai Global Humanitarian Mission is allowing many individuals to find their purpose of life through triple elixirs, which is free education, healthcare, and nutrition, which is dedicated to uplift rural India. Our goal is to ensure that every individual has access to quality education, nutritious food, and healthcare, regardless of their economic status. Through the education wing, we have free education provided to rural children from grade 6 up to research studies, totally free of cost, especially encouraging rural girls to educate and empower themselves. We also have the India's first totally free medical college offering courses in MBBS, allied health sciences, and nursing. In the realm of free healthcare, the Sri Sathya Sai Sanjeevani chain of pediatric heart hospitals extends completely free of cost. Furthermore, the Annapurna Breakfast Mission ensures that the over 3 million school-going children receives nutritious meal every morning, contributing to their overall well-being. So now, may we invite our speaker, Sri V. Ravichandar sir, to speak to all the students.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And for those on the call, good afternoon to you, wherever you are based. It's a great honor to be here to, talk to this group. In fact, I don't know whether I qualify to do this words of wisdom, but the fact that one was asked, and I'm extremely happy to really spend the day today. Earlier in the day, I actually went across the ashram, the hospital, the Veda Pathshala, the Gaushala and the like. I'm absolutely amazed by the kind of place that we have got out here. And I've just been here for about less than half an hour in this place. And I can just feel the energy, the positive energy that exists. So, and all that comes from people like you. Now, I'm going to make your task a little difficult because, words of wisdom means that I've already reached a stage where I can give gyan and wisdom, etc. I'm just 67 years old. There is still a life to be led. And what I have realized in my life is I continuously keep learning on a daily basis. The learning has never stopped. Even if I'm 67, it's not that I've learned and there is nothing more to learn. In fact, there was a mention, I'm the Honorary Director of Bangalore International Centre. I'll come to that. So when I started running the place 5 years ago, that time I was 62, the next oldest employee in the firm was 37 years old. So I've always surrounded myself with youngsters because the energy that exists among youngsters, the imaginative ideas that exist among youngsters is unparalleled. In many ways, I think our generation can learn a lot from people like you, and I intend to learn a lot from people like you. So if you think this is going to be a next 40-45 minutes of me talking to you, think again. I am going to get you to talk and give me wisdom during the course of the day. Okay? Now, I understand. Let me start with the tough ones, and either somebody can put up their hand, otherwise I'll just point to someone and say, you tell me what it is. So you have had these talks every Thursday. So I want to hear from you some main takeaways that have stayed in your mind. I mean, the speaker may speak about many things, but something stayed with your mind saying, this is something that is of value. This is something that is a deep insight. So I want volunteers coming forward, and the whole Sai thing is based on Seva and volunteers. So I'm expecting all of you to put up your hands and say that we will go first in answering it. So anything that has resonated with you, you don't need to tell me the speaker, but you heard the speaker say this and that touched a chord within you. Something that you felt that was valuable from the past talks of this kind. So think of it as a mini exam. Come on, go for it.
People are left out, or those their children they did not took care of well. So last time speakers speak, and what she's doing, that work touched me a lot. So in future also I want to work on that.
Thank you. And also when she talks about emotional intelligence, she's making a point about empathy. One of the most, most of you understand the meaning of empathy, or do we have to jump into Google? Do Google empathy. It's one of the most amazing human traits. An empathetic person is the most amazing gift anybody can have, because the moment you have empathy for others, you become a very different person to yourself, because that empathy to others automatically changes you. So while this was specifically for senior citizens, elder care, where people get neglected or are put in old age homes and parents are overseas or whatever, is one aspect about what do you take care of them, how do you take care of them. But the fact that you know that you need to take care of them itself is the empathetic aspect of a human being. That now, for example, you take a place like this, to me, it is amazing in this day and age, this thing about education, nutrition, and health, and everything being free, no costs at all, is very, very unique. There could be one or two other places doing it, but on scale, all these are concerned as something that has got a commercial connotation. You have to pay for this, or somebody has to. But the moment somebody says that, look, this is not for debate, this is free, reflects a much higher level of thinking, saying that if this basic building block, which comes from a good health, a sound education, a good education, and your nutritious needs being met, you will obviously create for a future better society. That's really the larger message. Anyone else? I want a few of you to go ahead, and then I'll come to a few points I want to make.
Sairam sir, I am Vishnu Priya. The talk which is still in my mind is when Kiran Bedi ma'am spoke to us online. We never really imagined that she would come and speak to us. So it was really a very wonderful experience to all of us. And when she was concluding, she told a example that life is like a pencil. So that example is still in my heart. She told
the pencil story about.
yeah, she told that pencil consumes itself for others. So our life should be like we should always try to do something which helps others, and we should not think for ourselves. We should be always. She told that pencil leaves a mark wherever it goes. So our life should be like we should give a mark everywhere. We should make some change. We should be the change. That is what she told.
Thank you. That's brilliant. And in the case of Kiran Bedi ma'am, I mean, apart from being an outstanding police officer and the governor of Pondicherry and others, the work that she did in Tihar jail, you normally don't, jails are terrible places, prison. But what, I'm sure she would have spoken about it, but the kind of things that she brought to the Tihar jail reform in my head is what was a very, very singular contribution and really game-changing in the way you think about some of those things. Two more, and then we will move on with the subject. I need two more volunteers. Somebody, I mean, this group has come. Someone in red from that group. Can I have a volunteer? Something that you heard in the last few weeks or many weeks, which resonated with you. Come on, come on. Building confidence, speaking, all that is also part of the overall training. And I'm sure that's something that...
Saram sir, my name is Tejaswini. So one thing that I still try to inculcate in my life was from one of the speakers who spoke on Swadhyaya. And as you mentioned, that life is a learning process. So it is not that we learn in a classroom, or it is not that we learn from just one particular thing. There are many things in our life, many circumstances from which we can learn. So I'm trying to keep my mind and myself open. I'm trying to keep myself open so that I can learn more. Thank you.
So continuous learning, openness to ideas, points of view, etc., makes you a better human being. So one last one, and any volunteers, or we'll just go ahead. Anybody want to raise hands? No? She's looking away. Okay. So I was just wondering what to talk about. First thing I must tell you, I mean, for me, it's absolutely gratifying to speak. I was just telling today in this room, we have 4 men. Everyone else here, at least in the room, are all women. And I'm of the view, a firm view. I mean, I'm a hardcore feminist in my thinking. According to me, the world will be a far better place if women were put in charge across the globe. So in my head, that is really the power of, Sri Shakti. And I firmly believe in it. And I was also telling them, my daughter, she's had 2 children, and both my grandkids are grandsons. We love them, of course. But I told God, could have sent one girl. I mean, we are also for. And then I heard God saying that I've actually sent across sons because I want you to have them having all the qualities of a woman in the way they think about society, about others and the like, and that you bring them up as true feminists and not the patriarchal kind of system that we have had. So they said there's a purpose why this is being done. So anyway, that was just as this thing. Now, so I was just thinking, what is it that I could potentially share? And sometimes the lived experience and learnings from the lived experience work better. I mean, you could read and talk somebody else's, but what you have lived through tends to stay with you. And for me, the last 24 years of my life from 2000 is when my life took a different path. And I thought I will try and take some lessons from what I've learned over the last 24 years. So at that time, I was 44 years old and my life changed. You know, before 44, if I have to briefly describe myself, I mean, in terms of degrees, yes, it was BITS Pilani, IIM Ahmedabad. Have you all heard of BITS Pilani as an engineering college? Quite a bit. IIM Ahmedabad as an MBA place. I mean, these are all places where it helps you get jobs or do what you want to do, etc. But nothing prepares you for life as living life in the real world. I was, if I have to describe my first 44 years, I was a corporate animal. I was an entrepreneur. I ran a business, market research. I ran a firm, gave people employment. I was doing all those things, helping clients make money and all that stuff was my job. But honestly speaking, it was a job. It was not, I needed to do. I mean, you need to put bread on the food on the table, etc. But was it something that made me feel that I was doing something like what she said, that make change happen and like a pencil leave mark? Was I doing anything substantial? No, maybe I was helping a company making X crores of rupees make 10x crores of rupees through advice, etc. But it just didn't give the kind of satisfaction of what you could do. And around 2000, my personal life changed. And I'll quickly give you my trajectory of what happened, and then I'll go straight to learnings. Because the story is not about me, but just to understand, the thing that I got very, very lucky, and I mean, we're talking about God and this thing, etc. I got very lucky, is I married well. You know, my wife, Hema, I'm known as Hema's husband. So actually, she's the one who should come here and speak to you. In Bangalore, if I go anywhere without her, the first thing they ask, where's Hema, where's Hema? So I am known as Hema's husband, and I'm very, very proud of it. She's also an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and Stella Maris, and she used to head human resources at Infosys. So you heard of Infosys, the company Infosys, some of you? So my wife Hema joined them as the head of HR when there were 250 people, and she left them in 2004 when there were 50,000 people. So the whole growth of growing a place from 250 to 50,000, she was in charge of the human resources part, and you know how important people is in the overall scheme of things. So she's a brand in herself in human resources and this space. We got lucky, thanks to Mr. Narayan Murthy and the partners. Those of us who joined early in Infosys, we all got stock options. So when the stock options are things where, you know, you get money more than you would normally get by way of salary and monthly earnings. So we got lucky. And because of that kindness, we had financial security, and we didn't have to really say, I need to work for a living. I'm financially comfortable. What is it that you wish to do? So we sat down, and Hema said that she likes HR, working with people, engaging with people. So she said, I'd like to continue to not necessarily work in the firm, but work in that space with people, human beings and their issues and the like. And I said, look, I want to find, that's why I gave the title, Finding Purpose. I am not clear what I want to do. I'll let fate take me where it takes me, but I'm very clear that I'm done with a conventional corporate career of being a consultant to companies and giving advice and those kind of things I'm done with, and I'll figure out. And over the last 24 years, I've been part of government committees, outside of government committees, working on making city and city living better for all citizens. All of this has been voluntary. I have never earned a rupee from the work that I have done in the last 24 years in these spaces. So I've been in government committees. Even now I'm in a Brand Bengaluru Government committee. I've also worked when I've been outside of government. So both kind of experience I've got, and trying to make the quality of life in the city better. And I'll give you some lessons from there. Then while working with government, I realized that it is extremely difficult to move the needle in government. Government moves very slowly. While they can make large impact, getting change in government is very, very, very difficult. And I never lost hope. I'm still working with government. So I have 24 years of knocking and trying to still do something. But then I realized that there are things that you can do outside of government which can make a difference to society. And by chance, I got into this whole field of what I call the soft infrastructure, which is arts, culture, conversations. So I got involved in running the Bangalore Literature Festival for 12 years, which is held every year. I got into Bangalore International Centre, built the place out, which is a place for conversations, arts and culture, now doing the Hubba. So I said, can we do something where the collective lot are improved in the context of arts, culture, etc., as the power of its healing, the power of arts and culture in education, the power of conversations in improving and getting a better awareness and points of view. So that's really been my focus, working in Bangalore and various other cities. Now, how many of this group, I'm presuming this group is predominantly rural, of which I have zero understanding because I'm an urban animal. I've lived in Bombay, Bangalore, etc., large cities, Chennai. Does anybody here have an experience of urban living, what it means to live in a city? Anybody? What it means to live in a city with 20 lakh population? Bangalore, of course, has 130 lakh population. No. So, which I realize that you may not have. So I'm not going to get into the specific examples, but I'm going to actually take the generalized learnings from what I learned through that particular route as learnings in terms of how to think about improving the lot of society, people around you, particularly the less privileged, the marginalized group in terms of this thing. So one of the things I learned really is that we need to think in everything that we do, we need to plan for the most vulnerable people in our society. If we plan for and I'm talking about from a government perspective, when government plans, the more they plan for people who are vulnerable. Who are people who are vulnerable? Who are economically weaker, who are oppressed in societal terms. It could be issues of caste, it could be issues of power politics, it could be issues who are at the end of the day at the rough end of the stick, where life is not, I mean, we are lucky, we are fortunate. We are the elite. And with elite comes responsibilities. When you're an elite, it comes with a responsibility to do good, to do no harm, to do better. So the vulnerability planning, the way to think about it is, as we go about our life and as we go into situations where we start working and this thing, in every situation, if we think as to, in this situation, who are the most vulnerable people, and if I can plan for them, there's a saying which says a rising tide raises all boats. And my view is, if that tide can be created based on planning for the vulnerable, then all the well-to-do people or the better off people will automatically get taken care of, if you really do. So let me take 3 or 4 examples on how to think about the less fortunate. Now, those of you who are here are actually the fortunate, because for everyone who's in this room, there are thousands outside who don't have access to what you have access to. That automatically makes you a privileged human being. I might be more privileged because of my circumstances, but in a relative hierarchy, each of us is more privileged than people down the chain in the same situation. It's a kind of a lottery of life that helps us get a place like this, or whatever the circumstances of birth and opportunity. So, for example, I canvassed for a program in Bangalore city, which is now part of this thing. So when you think about going on the road, you think about road, motor vehicles, buses, two-wheelers, etc. Who do you think is the most vulnerable person on our roads? Anybody? Huh? Louder, louder. Anybody? Who is the most vulnerable person on our village roads, city roads, district roads, any roads? Who is the most vulnerable person on our roads? Loud, I can't hear anybody. Correct. Pedestrian. Since he's given the answer, I'll go with it. She's hit the nail on the head. You know, we think of roads as being for motorized vehicles, for buses, for two-wheelers, etc., and therefore your tar and all those things. But the most vulnerable person are the people who are walking on the road or people who are on bicycles, non-motorized as it's called, because they can be run over by the motorized vehicle, by the speeding vehicle. You are vulnerable on our streets in terms of the road design. So consequently, if you are to plan roads, you must fundamentally plan roads around the pedestrians. While there will be space for vehicles to move, motorized vehicles, everybody will get space. But the planning, the central customer when you plan is the most vulnerable, which is the pedestrian. Which means in a city context, it is never the case in our districts and village roads. In a city context, that comes by having footpaths. If you don't have a footpath for a person to walk, then you have not taken care of the most vulnerable in that situation, because they are more likely to get run over by vehicles, because vehicles tend to go wherever there is tar, wherever there is space, they just go. They don't bother. They have the power of the engine. So you need to plan about the pedestrian. If you take people who help in our houses, etc., the maids, the drivers, many of them, the way they come to work is actually on foot. They don't parachute into our house. They don't take a plane or a helicopter and come. Most of them don't even have vehicles. Now, if you have to take care of them, they need safety as they walk the streets. Therefore, you plan footpaths for pedestrians as an example. Now, let's take another example. Let's take health. Now, who are the most vulnerable when it comes to health? Anybody? I'm talking city, but we can even take the larger example. Children, because they could be malnourished at birth and not getting enough feed. That is a good point. Who else? So children, malnourishment, pregnant mothers, etc., very, very important. So nutrition is important. Other on a day-to-day life, what would be the health? Daily wages. Why do you say that daily wages? It's a good point, but why do you say daily wages are vulnerable on health? Yeah. See, one, if the daily wage earner is, who also happens to be the main wage earner, it could be a man or a woman, falls sick, the impact on the family is multiplied, because the main earner is not, and you're a daily wage earner, you're earning daily, it's not a monthly salary. So you can't go to work for 5 days because you've fallen sick. It means the family has got less money over the 5 days for food and other things. So therefore, the daily wage earner in the context of things being healthy is very important because of the multiplier effect on the extended family. Okay. So in the context of Bangalore, just to give you a sense, 3 groups of people are particularly vulnerable. There is one group who live next to landfills where the garbage of the city is gone and dumped. You know, the landfill. According to me, it is morally the worst thing we can do. A city of 12 million going and dumping its waste next to a village of 5,000 is one of the most criminal things that we can do. In fact, the people who take those kind of decisions, I'm worried what they will give Chitragupta as an answer when on Judgment Day. If Chitragupta asks them, what were you doing when the waste was put on this landfill was put here? Most of us will not have an answer. And Chitragupta will say, red mark, F. Okay. So people living next to landfills clearly is a major health thing, because their water gets polluted, their groundwater gets polluted, they get more infected, they fall sick more often. Then in the context of Bangalore, there's something called a stormwater drain. Unfortunately, stormwater drain is supposed to carry water, but they carry sewage open. So people living next to it are prone to fall sick because of the health, this thing. So they are vulnerable. And third is there are parts of Bangalore, I'm talking Bangalore as an example, it is true of many places, where the nearest primary health center, which is well equipped, is 20 kilometers away or 15 kilometers away. They are vulnerable because when they have a crisis, they can't go and get it addressed. So when you have to plan as a planner, you got to say, what can I do to bring the landfill business down? What can I do to not make sure sewage does not go? And what can I do to make sure that there is more primary health care? So if I have X rupees of money, I spend in these directions more than anywhere else. Because these are the vulnerable, these are the people who need it. I could go on, but it could be about education, it can be about flooding and things. But the thinking really is, think about the people who are less fortunate than you when you are in a position to do something about it. Many of us may not be in a position to do something about it. Some of us may be in a position to influence policy and do, then we bat for those kind of things in terms of this thing. So, sorry, no, I'm okay actually. Okay, I'll take a little bit. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just leave it here. Thank you. I'll take it with me. The other thing I've learned while you see, when you work in government I'm talking about working with government, what you realize is the setup is quite dysfunctional. You know, we think of government in many ways. Many people think they are inefficient. Many people think they're not competent enough, maybe not, maybe corrupt, maybe this thing. But they're also working, all are prisoners of a system that is dysfunctional. What I've realized is there are good people everywhere wanting to do good. That's another thing I've realized. I can sit and crib about this not working, that not working, and I can spend my life just cribbing. But actually, I have to count my blessings and I have to look for the positive signals about what is good in the system and what can be nurtured to make it better. So the thing about government in terms of this thing is, what I've realized while working with government, you can achieve a lot of things if you understand, again, the empathy issue comes where they are coming from. But more importantly, it's a very practical thing. You can achieve more if you allow others to take the credit. You will achieve less if you want credit. If I stand up and say, I'm telling you to do this, they'll say, sit down. Who are you to tell me? I know what I have to do. But the same idea position that it can be their idea that they are taking because they are paid for it, there is power in what they are doing, etc. They will run with it because they are seen as the people who are actually coming out with the idea. So therefore, when you work in this public sphere, trying to bring change, trying to bring this thing, you essentially have to realize that if I have to get this done, if I have to allow the other person to get more credit for what is happening, allow it. Because we should be worried about the outcome, not who gets the credit. So if you're truly genuine about change, you will be more concerned about getting good outcomes than saying that I must be credited for those good outcomes. Credit doesn't matter, and it may come in due course if it is important to you and the circumstances are right. But you're not doing it because you want the credit. You're doing it because it is the right thing to do in terms of this thing. Now I want to go to this whole idea of free, which is here. I'm also in my own way a limited king of free. So I run this place called the Bangalore International Centre. Now, this is a space where we do about 400 events per year, which are conversations, arts, culture. This evening, for example, we have a 3-hour program on women composers and women performers of Carnatic music. So it's a lecture demonstration. So now all the 400 events we do is free to attend. Anybody in the city, the vegetable vendor, the driver, anybody can come and listen to it. We have members, but it is not a members only facility. It is for everybody. And a lot of people have said, why are you doing something free when people can pay for it? They can pay to listen to good music, at least in the city context. And my point and my learning and my insight there has been that moment you put a charge on something, a fraction of the people only will be exposed. Those who have affordability, those who have are exposed to that art form, and therefore they say it is worth paying. It's a very, very small group. But when you make something free, more people come out of curiosity, out of wanting to know more, wanting to this thing. And when they like it, next time around there's a ticketed show of a Carnatic music concert, they will say it is worth paying because I saw that free show and I really enjoyed it. Next time around, I know I have the capacity to pay, it is worth paying. So you end up creating audiences, you expose more people, you create awareness about the fine arts, about this whole music or dance or theater. Or if it is conversations, you expose people to multiple points of view that makes them think, can I think about doing this differently? You are just giving them food for their mind and soul in a way through this process. So I'm absolutely delighted that an institution like this on such a large scale, it's unimaginable what Sathya Sai University and this extended system is about, can do this on scale for people who deserve it. You know, you have to just sit, close your eyes and think, if this was not here, what was my option? And then gratitude journaling will fill up by itself automatically every evening. It will not be a problem to fill the gratitude journal. You just have to close your eyes. Don't even think about others. Think about what it could have been without options like this. So in a similar way, what I've therefore learned, that free serves a very big purpose. People talk the language of being inclusive, but free makes it come alive. It's credible that when you say you're inclusive and you do this free, then you're truly inclusive. Otherwise, I can say inclusive, but say that instead of 500 rupees, I'm charging 300 rupees. I'm a bit exclusive because I'm shutting the gate out for people who can't pay the 300 rupees. So therefore, on the issue of free, the other thing I've learned, and this has basically been guiding me, I'm, as I told you, 67 years and still learning every day. I am seriously curious about the world around me, on things I know something about, and most things that I don't know about it. The one thing I've got, curiosity might have killed the cat, but curiosity in human beings is very good. Because if you're curious, only then you will continuously keep wanting to learn more, wanting to know something about. I organize, I run the Bangalore Literature Festival, I run these arts and culture places. I don't understand a single rag. I don't understand a single note. Zero. F grade. But I'm actively involved in enabling it. I enjoy it. It is music to my ears. It is, yesterday I was watching a Kathak performance at BIC and it was lovely. I don't know the nuances of Kathak, but it is beautiful. It is something that is a piece of art. That's enough. It is not necessary that you need to know double PhD stuff on all the ragas and the like. But it is important that you're curious about what are these various things and continuously curious to learn more. In fact, if there is one trait that I would request all of you to develop, is never lose your sense. If you don't have a sense of curiosity, cultivate it. And if you develop a sense of curiosity, don't let it go. Because trust me, the more curious you are, increasingly as we grow in this complicated world, climate change, all kinds of things that are happening, most things that you will be associated with will be multidisciplinary. You may be a specialist in one area. You might specialize in, let's say, maths and maths related work. You may specialize, let's say, even in performing arts. You may specialize in science or something else. But to pull off a task, you will have to work with non-scientists, non-mathematicians, non-artists, and you'll have to make magic happen. So therefore, curiosity and therefore a curiousness about how others function and how they work is something that will stand you in good stead. The related thing which I talked about, this multidisciplinary thing which I have learned, I am totally convinced that a better future for humanity is through cooperation and collaboration. No one individual can fix the world's problems. It's not a magic switch, on-off switch where everything, I put the switch and the world is fixed. Not going to happen. We have to build alliances. We have to change hearts and minds. We have to collaborate. We have to cooperate to be able to get better outcomes for society. If you want less garbage on our streets, we must throw less garbage in the street place in the first place. We must segregate our waste and send wet waste and dry waste and compost the wet waste. If each person does their own collectively, we'll be a lot better. So everybody needs to come to the party in that collaborative mode. Another important thing I have learned is you may want to do good, you may want to bring about change, but it has to be sustainable change. Everybody can bring change for 10 minutes and 15 minutes and said success over, A grade for the rest of my life. Doesn't work. It has to be sustainable on a day-to-day basis. You can't start an institution and then start wondering this is now not sustainable, I have to close it down. So you have to think sustainability all the time, because the best ideas are those that can hang in there and be sustainable over a long period of time. The other thing which I have realized, my own contribution in the last 24 years is I've given time. I might have written the odd check, but what I have thrown myself is time. And time is one of the most precious resources. A time gone is gone. It's like an airline seat or a bus seat. The bus has left and that seat is empty. That bus seat sale is over. It's gone. That moment is not going to come back. The same thing is with our life. And what I've realized while working in this space, I know these are typically, gurus and all say this, that live in the moment. I have realized that to be very, very true. I can keep on regretting about 10 things that did not happen. I can keep regretting. But it is better I am more aware of what is the reality and think about the future. From the past, I can learn and I mustn't make the same mistakes. So the past is a good education tool of what to do and what not to do. But the mind has to be in the here and now. I had this very terrible habit, which I've just changed very, very recently, and my family is unbelievable that I'm not able to believe. Digital detox. I'm a zero inbox guy. I reply to mails immediately. I send messages, replies immediately. I'm obsessive. I'm obsessive about starting on time. So even if I'm with the family, etc., half the time or 80% of the time on my mobile, clearing work for other things. And in the last 2 months, I've shown my family that I've taken this as a goal, and I'm now 90% device free. I just get into the device in a very concentrated manner. And I go to my children's house, leaving the phone in the car, saying I'm capable of detoxing and being in the moment with the children and the grandchildren. Trust me, it's not easy. I'm feeling I'm missing something, etc. But I've seen in the last 2 months, the sun has still risen in the west. It has still set in risen in the east, set in the west. Life is going on. People are around. World has not come to an end. But you think you have such an exaggerated sense of self-importance that if you don't immediately do this, only you can do this. That is when you realize that this place has been there for billions of years. We are going to be what? With luck, my father, God bless his soul, he passed away last December. He was 103 and a half. So you can be, certain life, it could go up to that kind of life. But at the end of the day, what is it with billions of years? What is it in the infinitesimal kind of this thing? We tend to take to heart, get annoyed, get angry about things. In the overall scheme of things, it is trivial. But in that obsessive moment, we think this is the biggest thing in our life. And all that it causes stress to us. And this has happened through at least my life a lot, that others may cause me stress. The guy who's having the health problem is me, because the other person has moved on, leaving the stress with me. And I've realized that this is a below notice issue. And I'm unnecessarily stressing myself. And therefore, that little, what I would call as, this whole body, mind, and soul. I was very envious of all of you, as you sit. I have a yoga teacher who comes home, and for me, it's impossible to sit cross-legged. Maybe Vajrasana I could do, and I sit in the chair and do my pranayama. So I'm very envious of people who can just sit like that for hours on end, straight back, etc. I'm seriously envious. But it's pointless being envious. I must do something about it, which I try every day, but I keep failing on a daily basis. But that's not a reason to try. And that's the other learning that I've had while working with the system. You know, when you're trying to bring change, there are a lot of people who are pessimists. They'll say, Agala. I'm healthy, I'm experienced. You can try. Eno agala. This will not change, or this is not possible. I am saying I accept that the odds are difficult, that the chance of change may be very low. But I look for that 1% opening and a chance where it is possible. I would rather spend my time and energy both with my thoughts and with the people I interact with who believe in the power of possible than the people who believe it is impossible or are pessimists and who get great joy from, I told you it is not possible. I know that it is difficult. It is difficult to get this change done or that change. But when you have choices, spend them wisely. Even in your thoughts, spend your thoughts with thoughts which are more positive. It will do good for your health. Thoughts that are negative cause stress. You don't realize it, but you will get back pain in due course. So my learning there really is look for that 1% positivity, and it is low. The positivity ratios are low. The negativity ratios are higher in society globally. Globally, for a variety of reasons. But can we, for ourselves, make the choice that I will be positive about what I am up to, what I am doing? I will not, working with government, I have a self-described term for myself. It's not that I'm well known or anything. I'm just known, I've worked my thing. But I've given myself a title, patron saint of lost causes. So if anything which is a hopeless cause in the marketplace, you can be sure that Ravichandar is trying to do something about it and failing. That's why I'm patron saint of lost causes. But in the struggling away for this thing, there are at least one or two good things that have come as a result of that, like the Tendershore project for roads where pedestrians is part of the planning. There are things that, for example, I'm particularly happy about a particular project I was associated with, which is 2004, came up with the idea that Lal Bagh, many of you know Lal Bagh in Bangalore, heard of it? Big garden, 250 acres, etc. Now today, Bangalore has a water crisis. You're lucky you don't have a water crisis. We have a water crisis, which is why I'll carry that water bottle with me. See, the thing really is, what we did in Lal Bagh, there was a lake there. We dredged the lake. We put a sewage treatment plant, 1.5 MLD. We put sprinklers in the lawns. And consequently, we made Lal Bagh sustainable for the next 100 years. Lal Bagh will never be short of water, even if Bangalore is short of water. This was done 20 years ago. Today, in this water crisis, Lal Bagh doesn't have a problem because we had future thought that we'll have this lake, dredge it, increase its capacity, have sewage treated water coming into it. So this is really what I mean. So I might have lost 98 battles, but just that one Lal Bagh thing or 10 pedestrian footpaths where pedestrians are safer gives you a sense of a high and a joy that is unmatched. But I lose 98 other battles. But that's not a reason. People ask me, how come you're hanging in there? And I said, every morning, most of you work with computers. So, in computers, you have a RAM memory and a ROM memory, the hard disk memory. And you have the RAM. When you switch on the memory, it takes time and then start up and all. That's RAM. So I'm like a RAM memory. I mean, I have hard disk memory of memories of the past. But when it comes to working for change, I'm like a switch that is switched on every morning. I start on 0. Like they say in cricket, even though you have a lunch break, you're on 100, start batting again as though you're starting at 0. So I have amnesia about the failure of yesterday in bringing change. I just think today it is still possible to bring change because I have no memory of yesterday's failure. So you got to have this RAM thinking that tomorrow is another day. I can switch on again and start all over again. That setback, that defeat is not the end of me. I am better than that. in terms of this thing. You know, the other thing, some people make the thing, oh, you know, you made a lot of sacrifices to do this, etc. Honestly, no. In fact, in doing what you like to do, for me personally, I have gained a lot more than I have given. So even if I've invested so much in trying to bring change, what I've got from the process and what I've got from things that I've worked far exceed any input that I have put in. So when people say you're making a sacrifice to do this, I said it's all rubbish. It is basically you're doing it because this is what you want to do. You're not doing it because you're doing this as a sacrifice. My whole basic philosophy has been be good, do good. That's it. In fact, people have told me, but what about the feel good part? Because normally the statement is 3 parts: be good, do good, feel good. I said, I don't do this to feel good. I do what I think needs to be done. In the process, you have this high, you have a feeling of good. It's a bonus. But you don't embark on this because you want a feeling of elation at the end that you have thing. So I'm really a believer more in terms of, I'm really a karma yogi is the way I see my personal life. That do what you need to do at your state in life. Leave the rest to what is to happen. So absolutely, I mean, which is why I'm not too much into many of the other things. You know, my mother has taken me to some 1,000 temples. I always tell that in my first 20 years, I visited so many temples and so many things that I have covered for the whole year. So the rest of the year, I'll only do Kalsa and I'll work rather than doing the... So it really doesn't matter. So for each their own, I have personally chosen that my work is really where I want to live. That's my worship place itself, doing that work. So you make your own choices. And for me, Karma Yogi in a way almost describes what this thing has been. And that almost brings me to the end of this thing. How many of you regularly read some books? I just want to know about the habit of reading. Can I see a show of hands? Outside your curriculum, not your things that you study. The ratio is a bit low. Those of you, and thank you for your honesty, not putting up your hand, please read. Read fiction, read non-fiction, but read. Because from reading, there are bad books and there are good books. And the bad books very soon, like a healthy diet, once you're on a healthy diet, you'll keep the bad books aside. Because a healthy diet will then not take non-healthy items. But through reading, you get suddenly exposed to a whole wide world out there of imagination, of creativity, others' journeys, and some of them will resonate with you. It has to be seen part of your overall learning curve. If nothing else, read at least the daily newspaper. Read one article a week, a long-form article. But don't ever give up on reading. Because one of the things that you have been blessed with is you're part of a literate population. And you all know Kannada and English. Nange Kannada artha agate, maatardage agalla. So one of my other things that I feel very sad about it, and I've gone to Kannada classes 3 times, just not entering my head. It's like some people have difficulty with maths. I have difficulty with languages. It just doesn't enter my head. It's not for lack of trying. And, you know, so because I work with government, I know that I would be 3 times as effective or 5 times more effective if I could speak Kannada. In my Kannada, very quickly, they realize I'm a Tamilian. And then they say, speak to me in Tamil or something. But, you know, it helps this reading, exposure, language. And I'm now joining the 4th Kannada class because I'm not giving up. You know that I never give up. So for the 4th time, Robert Bruce 8 times and then he won out, you know, if you know the Robert Bruce story. So reading is another one. And the last point really is stay engaged. Find something that is outside your work. I mean, outside your studies. If studies and what you're studying for becomes your passion in life, you're home and dry. You're studying for performing arts and that's what you want to do. Trust me, in more ways than one, you're really home and dry because I did engineering. I hated engineering. But I was this family where, you know, we either went for engineering or medicine. 2 queues were being formed. We had to join one of the 2 queues. I'm a Tam Brahm, you know. So Tamilian Brahmins, you have no choice. You have to join one of those 2 queues. I joined engineering. I hated it. So I went for MBA to run away from engineering. But then I realized with this whole MBA business, there's a lot more that life teaches you than any classroom teaches you in terms of management, education, etc. And which is why I decided that I will find passions and hobbies, which in my case became causes like fixing, very engaging with the city, arts, culture, etc. as my passion in life. And that has now become my obsession in terms of this thing. And therefore, cultivate a hobby, cultivate. And you may not know it right now. You may not even have it. But if you're curious and open-minded, you'll never know when it hits you and say, this is exactly what I really want to do. Thank you for being such an attentive audience. I hope I didn't bore you, and I hope there was some learning. And if 5 speakers later somebody asks you what were words of wisdom, I hope somebody will say one thing that Ravichandar fellow said resonated with me. Then I'll say, okay, it was sort of useful. Okay.
There are few questions from our audience. Like the first question is that many of us overlook the importance of planning for the most vulnerable members of society, as you mentioned, but our focus tends to remain limited to our families and ourselves. How can we effectively emphasize this point you have raised?
It's a very good question. In fact, most people's interest is just their immediate family. At a balconies into the public space. That's an example of not having a sense of the larger community. So here really it is a mindset change where we have to think of, we say Vasudeva Kutumba and all that stuff, the world is our family, but we don't behave like that. We tend to behave more insular, that all I care about is my immediate family, or maybe my extended family and nothing beyond that. So to effect that change is seriously tough. It really requires behavioral science. It is really, the way it will happen is people have to realize that in the collective good is my good. Today, they are not seeing that if the community prospers, I will prosper. So I set up something called City Connect, where I used to get business engaged in city issues, saying, if the city does not work, your business will not prosper. Therefore, it is better for you to engage with the city. In the same way, if I take my street, people want security. They're worried about mobile phone snatching, etc. If the street can come together to put together a community watch to keep eyes on the road for everybody on the road, slowly a sense of community well-being comes into thing. Today, it would be fair to say that we do not have sufficient sense of community. In the sense, the moment we have the sense of community, other cultures have it. You go to Japan, nobody will throw a piece of garbage. They'll put it in their pocket till they can find a dustbin. They will not get rid of it. Today, it's happening in Indore. Indore is so proud of its clean city that they will not this thing, because there's a sense of pride. So this will come if we have a sense of pride in our larger community, in our city, in our country, that we are different. We are this thing. As I told you, Japanese, some of the South Asian societies, I was in Vietnam recently. How clean it was. How clean it was. It's a fully educated, literate population. Primary school education is compulsory. Educated population, respect for rule of law, concern for the others, and suddenly magic happens. We are a long way from getting there, but the only way it can happen, in my view, is you need people who are mass influencers who push that idea. And the second way it can happen is the community has to see that there is greater benefit if all of it, in a sense, during COVID, you realize that if somebody was irresponsible, you could get it. And therefore, the importance of everybody being responsible for each other, COVID was an example. Maybe God sent COVID across to just give us a wake-up call. Any other question? Sorry. I wish I had known.
There is another question. Like as we grow older, our curiosity often diminishes and we can become stagnant. How can we nurture and cultivate this curiosity as we age?
I've aged. I'm 67, as I kept telling. So clearly the oldest in this room. I have not lost an iota of curiosity. In fact, I jump around more than my grandkids on some issues. So it's really the genetic makeup of curiosity is something that you choose to kill. It is a fact that as you grow older, you become more conservative in your thinking. You're more progressive in the beginning, you become conservative in what this the political graph, if I can call it that. You tend to be more risk averse. You have seen more of the world, therefore you are cynical. You are saying that nothing will happen. All that comes from there. The only way, according to me, you can keep your curiosity alive is always to keep cultivating new interests. But to my mind, never lose the child in you. We were all children once. There is no reason to grow out of that child part of you, which had curiosity, which when a light came on, there was amazement. When a ball rolled, you said, wow, this is magic. Today, you think it is obviously balls will roll. But the first time when you encountered it, it was magic. Never let the magic die in you. And it may not be about things that you know enough about, but there are many things that you do not know about, which is why you got to cultivate interests which you never had. So let's say you never went for a music concert. Regularly go and sit in music concerts, and suddenly you'll realize there's a whole different world out there because you never went to a music concert in your life. You had no idea what that experience is and that curiosity. But the heart of it will really, it's up to you. But my suggestion would be never let the child in you ever disappear. That is really the crux of how you retain curiosity. Children are super curious. It's we adults who say, no, this is not it, this is it. They all kill their whole thinking, and we must encourage their creativity. We must encourage their making. If I look at my grandkids, they're all digital natives. They're 6 and 3 years. The 3-year-old fellow has zero fear of the phone. He's just swiping this way, that way. Older people will think it'll blow up in your face or something. They're very wary of using apps. But the kids know no fear. They're just going out and figuring out for themselves. That's the spirit that we need to have. Done. Any questions here? Anyone? I made them speak at the beginning also, so this time I think it's 2:30. I think we should close because you have other schedules.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights and wisdom. So may we now invite Dr. Krishnajyoti ma'am, Head of Department of Physical and Chemical Sciences, to felicitate our guest speaker, Sri Ravichandar ji. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. May we now invite Sister Anuradha from second year BSc, Computer Science and Economics, to deliver the vote of thanks.
It is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks for today's event. On behalf of the entire fraternity of the university, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Ravichandar ji, our guest today, for taking out your valuable time for us all and gracing us all with your wisdom and experiences. Your talk on finding purpose has truly been impactful. Thank you, sir, for shedding light on this important aspect of our lives and guiding us towards a deeper understanding. It is evident that there is no age limit for learning to find our purpose in life and respond to our inner calling. Let us all carry the inspiration gained today into our future endeavors. Also, a big thank you to all the elders, faculty members, and all students for your presence this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Anuradha. Let us end the session with Shanti Mantra. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti